You heard the rest. Now here's the best. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here, once again. How's everybody's weekend going? Well, week. Well, I guess weekend, depending on how you're listening to the show here. But going good here. Got a lot of news. Some baseball talk, AHL, hockey minor league. UFC was this past weekend. It was nice to have a little bit of sports on TV. But before we get into the show, head over to Twitter, follow us there at ST Sports Podcast, as well as our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Thank you for all the comments that are coming in now on our YouTube channel. Appreciate it. I'm going to try to respond to some of you guys over there, whether they're bad or whatnot. But so this past week, the AHL canceled the remainder of their season. Roughly, there was about 7 games left in the regular season. I only say that because I have season tickets to the Baby Pen game, and there were 7 games there. I think I had like 3 left or so. But I mean, let's be honest. We knew this was going to happen. I'm just actually quite surprised that the NHL hasn't announced anything yet. I mean, you think about it. Why not just cancel it? You're gonna have, if we have another season next season, their training camp's gonna start within the next 2 or 3 months. So you want to give them some time off, even though they already had some time off with the pandemic that's going on. But as of right now, the AHL president still is not sure how next season is going to look, whether there's going to be fans there in the beginning of the season or ever. So definitely interesting stuff in the hockey community. Like I said, I'm just really shocked the NHL hasn't made any type of statements other than waiting to see what's going to happen. I think the right move is just cancel the season. There was only, I believe, one other time that there was no Stanley Cup champion, so it's not like this is going to be the first time. I believe I asked our good friend King about that. Has there ever been a season where there was no Stanley Cup champion? And I believe he said there was 2 times. One with the work stoppage and one way back in the early 1900s or so. So the thing that NHL has to keep in mind is not only the fans' safety, but also the players. And I'll get into why I say the players with things going on with the baseball possibly having a season starting in July. But yes, they're players. And yeah, we saw with UFC this past weekend, the testing that went on. But you got to make sure you have the right protocol for the testing, and then what happens if a player tests positive before a game. This past weekend with UFC, Jakar Sueza tested positive, and 2 of his cornermen. So they sent them home, back to Brazil. Now, I didn't see nothing about this, so I'm only assuming this, but I'd be willing to bet that they didn't retest any of the fighters. I'm pretty sure these tests don't come back 3 minutes after they're done being tested. So I think the right thing to do is to cancel the season, get ready for hopefully next season. Because also the other thing I was thinking too today was, okay, these players have had since I believe they said March, with all the sports being postponed. So you're already going on 2 months without physical play. Yeah, you might be, practicing at home. I've seen a couple of the goalies practicing, trying to stay in shape at home, but it's different when you're around the guys and out on the ice, practicing, shooting, and stuff like that. So the quality of the game too would, I think, take a hit. You look at the Philadelphia Flyers. Carter Hart was playing, very well. That team was playing very well towards the end there. From what I remember, I think the Penguins were collapsing, and the Capitals were starting to fall apart a little bit as well. Now, who's to say if they did come back, Capitals and the Penguins need that little time off, maybe to get some players healthy. We obviously won't know, but I think with the time off, it would really hurt the quality of the playoffs, and the product of the game. So speaking of, like I said, baseball also came out earlier this week. The owners approved a proposal that the commissioner is going to take to the ball players, I believe this past Tuesday, which already a lot of players are coming out saying they're not for it, they're against it. And looking at some of the points that were included in the proposal, I don't blame them. Obviously, money is the big issue here for the owners, for the players as well. Baseball would start back up the week of July 4th. They would have they're calling it a spring training 2.0 to start in June with no games played. Just, I guess, basically get them back in shape, get the players back in shape. And would also have an expanded roster from 30 players to 50, with minor league players being included in that roster. Now, that sounds all fine and dandy on the top, but when you really start breaking it down, more of the things that are included in the proposal is the expansion of the playoff teams from 10 to 14 teams, only playing a half a year, 82 games. This one I think would be a sticking point. The use of home stadiums in areas that have local and state government approval. So, let's all be honest, if the Yankees want to play at home, with everything that's going on there, they're not going to be able to play at home, at their home stadium. The commissioner also came out and said he has talked to some governors and local officials, from other states to kind of judge who would approve of baseball in their stadiums, but already has a contingency plan to move those teams that can't play at their home stadiums to a different location. Again, I understand there's no fans in the stadium, but you want to wake up in the morning at your home or your apartment and drive 20 minutes to the stadium. You don't want to wake up in a hotel away from your family to play in Florida when you're from New York or Philly or Baltimore. I think that is going to be a sticking point, because also, even though we're talking about them being players, they are still humans. They want to be with their family, during this time. Last thing they want to do is especially go down to Florida with everything opening up down there and people still not practicing social distancing and doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. So, like I said, they're also calling the spring training 2.0 to start in June. A universal designated hitter. I know for a couple years they've been talking about that, and this may be the owner's way of trying to get this implemented into Major League Baseball. Stop having the pitchers hit, which I'd be okay with designated hitters in the AL and NL, because let's be honest again, I mean, how many 300 hitters, even 200 hitters are pitchers? Very, very rare you have a very good pitcher, or not even very good pitcher, just a pitcher in general, be decent at batting. So I think it would also make the game a lot more interesting. A lot more offense would definitely be involved. Another part of the proposal would be geographical schedules. So basically, the AL East would still play all their interdivision games, but then also only play NL East teams. So, for example, the Yankees would play Philly, would play the Mets, Washington. You know, they won't go out to California to play the Angels or the Giants, because Major League Baseball wants to keep the traveling at a minimum. And then, you know, like I said, a 30-man roster with a taxi squad that would have upward of 50 players available was the last part. Going back to the money part of this, reading some more on this whole situation, back in March, the owners and players agreed that the owners would pay the players a prorated salary depending on how many games are played. Now, with this proposal, the other part of this proposal that is included is the owners want a 50-50 revenue split. So basically, any money they make off the TV, they split 50-50. No matter how much a player makes. If a player makes $5 million a year and the revenue comes in at $1 million per player, they only get $1 million from themselves. If I'm the players, I'm shooting that down right there. Like, if that's the first thing I'm seeing, I'm ripping it up and using it as toilet paper. That is some BS. I know a lot of these players make 25, 30 million a year on a normal year. But these owners are multi-million-dollar, multi-billionaires. Like I said about the Lakers a couple weeks ago, applying for the small business loan. You guys are business people. You guys have to have some type of savings every year from the seasons. I mean, you don't just break even every year. If that's the case, then you're in the wrong business. You're in the business of owning a team to make money off of it. So if you're worried about losing money because fans won't be in the stadium, I think you have bigger issues as far as a business person than worrying about 82 games or 10 to 14 playoff teams. I'm most, you know, again, like I said, I'm pretty sure the players are going to shoot this idea down, and I'm behind them 100%. Because nothing also in this proposal describes what's the safety protocols or testing protocols for the players when they come to a game. That should be the first thing these owners should have figured out and put it in the proposal. You want these players to get on your side. They're worried about themselves and their family. Make them feel safe when they're coming to work. If my job came to me, like right now, my job, I have to wear a mask and a face shield to make rolling doors. If they came to me and was like, you know, we're going to lose a little bit of money because, some of the work sites, they can't put the doors up. So instead of you making such and such amount of money an hour, we're going to just do, 3% of whatever we make. I'd tell them piss off. And hopefully these players have better business smarts and have some money saved up so that if a season doesn't play out, they have something to pay their bills and support their family. This is just another thing too that kind of got to me was the owners already had an agreement with the players back in March that they would get a prorated deal depending on how many games. Now you put this proposal out there that you want to play 82 games. Okay, so you're not paying a player $5 million this year. You're only going to pay him $2.5 million because it's a half a season. A couple of players did come out and say that they do feel that this is just the owner's way of basically saying like, woe's me. I'm not going to make any money this year. Again, what about all these past years? You are making a hell of a lot more money than the players. Now, I know we're all clamoring to get sports back and things like that. College football is not looking too good right now. I'll tell you what, I don't think baseball is looking too good either. Because if they want to start in July 1st, that's only a month and a half away. And the players are already against this proposal. I would honestly think they have about 2-3 more weeks to agree to something to be able to do a spring training and then kick the season off. Because once late July comes, you're down to 50 games. What's the point of playing a season then? You're not really going to accomplish anything. So I really think within the next 2-3 weeks, we're going to get an answer about the baseball season this year, if we're going to have one or not. And again, I mean, just, looking at New York, Pennsylvania. I mean, I know out near Pittsburgh, the governor is slowly opening up things out that way, but Philadelphia is still shut down. Some of these stadiums aren't ready to open up yet to even have ball players in there. But I hope, in a way, I still do hope that the players and the owners could come to an agreement and get some baseball in. But we'll see. Now, football, on the other hand, I think there's still enough time for things to get better in the nation for us to start to have a football season on time. Not too sure about training camp, because again, a month and a half away from July. They usually report at the end of July, so you got about 2.5 months. But Mike Tomlin was in the news for saying about training facilities opening up for NFL teams. There's been some talk about when some states are clear to resume work, that the training facilities could open up there. But Mike Tomlin came out and said that he feels that the NFL should make sure that all the training facilities open up at the same time. Not one here, one there, one there. In fairness to competitiveness. And I agree with them. Because again, you look at New York. It's not going to open up anytime soon. Now, the NFL did send out a memo to all 32 teams that laid out the protocols for gradual reopening of the team facilities. And basically, it's going to be opening in waves. So the first group that would be allowed back into a team facility would be no more than 50% of non-player staff and up to 75 people per day in those facilities. The only players that are allowed to come to the facility are players that are rehabbing. I could understand that. And you know what? That idea of letting 50% of the non-players in, it's actually, I think it's a good idea. As long as all the team facilities can open up at the same time. Right now, the players and the coaches, all they're doing is virtual meetings. And Tomlin made a point that it's one thing to sit there and teach the rookies, teach new free agents coming in the playbook, but it's a totally different thing when you're out on the practice field. So if you have the Dallas Cowboys open up next week, and they're on the practice field learning new plays. You got CeeDee Lamb coming in learning new plays, but yet Philadelphia Eagles can't open up yet because they're still on lockdown or stay at home, whatever you want to call it. Well, obviously those rookies are going to be more used to the playbook and the chemistry with Dak Prescott, or the communication with the DBs amongst themselves. They're going to be farther ahead the curve than everybody else in the NFC East. And, I brought the Cowboys and Eagles, but I mean any team. The Ravens over the Steelers. Steelers, like I said, Pittsburgh is almost open. I'm not too sure about Baltimore. They may still be shut down. Steelers could catch up to them. Not sure they're going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson, but I agree with Mike Tomlin. I think they should really hold off and open up the training facilities all together, all at once. Make it fair. And obviously, how I said about the first group of people, the second phase would be to allow the players to return, but is unclear. They're unclear whether they'll be able to practice on the field or not. So hopefully, again, like how I was talking about the NHL with the playoffs, everything does open up on time. All the players and coaches get enough practice in, because the last thing us fans want, that we're all clamoring for the sports to come back, is have crappy quality product out there on the field. Now, UFC 249 was this past weekend. Let me tell you, that was no crappy quality. I watched from, I believe it was like the second prelim all the way through the night, and every fight was a good fight. My boy Nico Price, though, I was lucky enough to tune in for him. I love watching him, but man, he's got to learn how to block. He can't keep your hands down. He can't keep getting into these brawls. And hopefully he'll get to be just like Justin Gaethje, who used to get in the brawls, but now it seems like he's learned to be patient and not take so many bad shots. But talking about the main card, first fight that kicked off the card was Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro. First round, Yorgan, I gave it to him. It just seemed like he was countering everything that Hardy was throwing. He was chopping at the leg, and the second round started, and like Greg Hardy said, he heard Cormier say he better start checking the leg kicks, otherwise he's not going to be standing much longer. And as much as I hate Greg Hardy and do not like him at all, that was probably the most impressive win I've seen him to date. He won by unanimous decision over Jorgen. Now, also on the flip side, though, Jorgen, for whatever reason, stopped fighting in the second and the third round. I mean, again, the leg kicks were working. He was trying to counter Hardy with his, punches, but just couldn't do anything. Couldn't push forward. He was pushing forward in the first round. Just stopped doing it. After that fight, we had Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens. Now, let's not forget, Jeremy Stephens came in 4.5 pounds overweight. So, when I saw that, I thought for sure Jeremy Stephens was going to win. He has more weight, which means he has more power. Well, Kattar knocked him out. First round, 20 seconds to go. And tell you what, it was a nice knockout. I would like to see Kattar get some more tougher competition, maybe for his next fight. Then the third fight of the night was Francis Ngannou versus Rozenstruik. And let's put it this way, you want to see a dead body? Go find that fight, because Francis Ngannou killed him. 20 seconds in to the first round. Sorry, Kattar knocked Stephens out in the second round at 2:42. But Ngannou just connected with a left hook, which started to drop Rozenstruik. But he fell back up against the cage, and his head bounced off the cage right into a right hook of Ngannou, and that was it. Now, here's the one thing, though, I did notice with Ngannou, and I seen some people kind of comment on Twitter. Now, yes, this is his fourth first-round knockout in a row. And if Stipe doesn't fight, Ngannou's going to be fighting Cormier for interim title probably the next few months. But the thing is, when he knocked out Rozenstruik, the way he was throwing his punches reminded me of Cyborg when Cyborg fought Amanda Nunes. Left his jaw wide open, hands down, just like no technique. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to win against Cormier, but all Cormier has to do is try to survive one of those punches and just counter it. His jaw is wide open there. Now, the thing that also interests me about this fight, if it's Ngannou versus Cormier was supposed to retire this past March. With him losing to Stipe, and then with everything going on, Stipe being a volunteer fireman, and also did come out and say this past week that him and his team are negotiating with UFC to get the fight with Cormier, even though Cormier is saying Stipe is ducking him. But the Ngannou-Cormier fight, obviously Cormier has the wrestling, but Ngannou's power is just hard to deny. You got to think that it's only going to take one punch to knock Stipe or Cormier out. So if that fight does happen, as of right now, I'm actually going to pick Ngannou over Cormier. But things could change. We could see he definitely looked in a lot better shape than from the Derek Lewis and back fights. Definitely looked in better shape. Then for the co-main event, we had Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Now there was a lot of drama with this one. So first round, Cruz, looked decent. I mean, he was laid off for 3 years for injuries and just not fighting. but he looked good. Second round, back and forth. They both go for a punch. They both butt heads. Cuts Cejudo open. And he was bleeding pretty good. Doctor looked at it, said he's fine. Comes out. Cruz goes to punch. Cejudo counters, knocks him down. Starts unloading a good... I saw a lot of people say 13 to 15 unanswered strikes, but I saw more of a 9 to 10 unanswered strikes. There were 4 or 5 that missed Cruz, and he wasn't defending himself though. That's the thing. He was trying to push himself up. Finally, Keith Peterson jumped in, called it off. Cejudo wins the belt back, or retains it, I should say. And to kind of go off a little subject here about the fight, Cruz, after the fight, in a post interview backstage, alleged Keith Peterson smelled like cigarettes and alcohol. Now this surprised me because Cruz doesn't seem like a guy to make excuses. I mean, to be honest, I thought it was a good stoppage. Just because he wasn't blocking, he wasn't trying to grab a leg or anything. He was trying to get himself up. I'll give him maybe that, but even that's a stretch. And then he reiterated his statement, I believe, Sunday or Monday. Now, also, one of the other UFC fighters that had a controversial stoppage alleged that as well about Peterson. But Herb Dean also came out and did say that all the refs were with each other over time, and not once did they smell or of alcohol or cigarettes. And if they would have smelt it on Peterson or any of the refs, they would have spoke up and ended that right there. Not saying Cruz was a sore loser here, but doesn't look good for him. Now, going back to Cejudo, in his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, he announced his retirement, and me and the wife were watching that, and I was like, wow. And I don't really like him. I don't like his whole WWE shtick that he does, getting the pillows from Etsy of Cruz or whatnot, or next day waking up with the pillows of the people he beat. But I don't think he's done. I think he's pulling GSP. He's 30, what do you say, 31, 32, something like that. I think this is a money issue. He's in the prime of his career. Yes, he beat everybody that you could possibly think of in his divisions. But I still think there's some fights out there for him that he could still defend his title to become the best ever in the UFC. I would still take GSP over him. I'd still take John Jones over him as pound for pound king. Yes, he's defended both of his belts. But to leave, I just think he's leaving too early. And that's why I said to my wife, I that's what surprised me, is that he made the announcement in the prime of his career. Now, his manager did say Dana White does, or no, yeah, his manager did say Dana White does know his number. Now, does his number mean pay raise number, or give him a call to beg him to come back, or what exactly that statement mean? I think it's about money. Even though he made $350,000 for this fight, But if he is retired and done, gotta give credit where credit's due. Henry, I know I give you a lot of shit on this podcast, but good career. You always gave me something to root for against you. Then after them, we had the main event, Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson. And I mean, not much to say. Gaethje just dominated Tony Ferguson. Ferguson just didn't have any answers. And it ended up getting stopped in the fifth round due to doctor stoppage. So that sets up, as of right now, the rumor that Dana White said they're real close to setting up the Gaethje-Khabib fight for July or September, even though Mr. Conor McGregor thinks he has the title fight. Now, here, if I'm Dana White in the UFC, this is what I'm doing. I'm setting up the Gaethje-Khabib fight. If you guys listened over the past few months about me with Conor coming back and want to be more active, he should not jump the line just because he's a big draw. You think about it, he beat an old cowboy, which I thought he beat Pettis this prelim, but I thought he beat Cowboy. He lost to Khabib. He didn't fight for 2 years. I still think Conor needs one more fight to show that he is back in title contention. And I would pin him up against either Tony Ferguson or Dustin Poirier. You know, Ferguson went on a 12-fight win streak before this, and everybody that says he's overrated, shut up. If he's overrated, how did he go on a 12-fight win streak against some good names too? Not, 20th ranked guys. But with Ferguson going on that 12-fight win streak, had the fight signed with Khabib, had it taken away, made weight even when he didn't have to for April, I think it was the April 18th fight. And he's still entertaining fight. He's still talented. It's not like he's at the end of his career now. So I would, if I had to say between Ferguson or Poirier to fight Conor, I would say Ferguson. And let's just see how dedicated Conor is, because you're not going to make the Justin Gaethje-Khabib fight co-main event and have Conor, a non-title fight, a main event. Make him a co-main eventer. You'll still sell a lot of pay-per-views. Definitely was an entertaining weekend. Hopefully baseball gets sorted out. Football will be coming on soon, within next couple months, hopefully. But I believe that's going to be it for us this week. So before we go, head over to Twitter, follow us there at ST Sports Podcast, as well as our Facebook page. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Leave comments on any of those platforms. So till next week, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.